I take great pleasure in inviting our next speaker, that is Geetha Appachu, who will be handling the next session. I once again request Mr. Aditya sir to give the introduction of our speaker. Aditya sir, you need to unmute yourself. You have been on mute.
Yeah,
Yes.
good morning, everyone. Dr. Geetha Appachu, Chief Head at Swaptaran, has a psychological wellness center in Bangalore, is an established psychologist with over 25 years of teaching and clinical experience. Dr. Geetha holds a doctoral degree in psychology and two postdoctoral research works collaborating with universities in Norway and Canada. Our experience and expertise as a holistic health psychologist is for individuals, family, adolescents, and adults working with the issues like work stress, academic stress, marital stress, stress related to illness, and pandemic. Dr. Geetha has worked with over 500 clients living across the globe to overcome their problems. She has collaborated with NTNU Norway and University of Calgary, Canada, from several institutions and universities in our country. Dr. Geetha conducts special training skills, workshops, psychological counseling services for established corporates and educational institutions. She is an accomplished academic supervisor and teaching faculty for more than 20 years now, has rich experience in mentoring and teaching psychology to graduate and postgraduate students, medical MD students, and PhD students. It's an incredible honor for us to have Dr. Geetha Appachu in our midst as an invited speaker for our special webinar during this time of pandemic. A warm welcome to
Now, we move on to the next speaker, that is Ms. Geetha Appachu. So over to you, madam.
Good afternoon, participants. Thank you, Aditya, for introducing me. At the outset, I wish to congratulate KLE Society's S. Nijalingappa College Management and their Department of Psychology for organizing this UGC-sponsored international webinar. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's audible.
Thank you, Dr. Supraja, for inviting me over to connect as a psychologist on this necessary interaction about the influence of social media on higher education. Well, all those who are pursuing higher education now, I'm sure you'll all agree that every little child from the age of 6 has actually started using the social media for any homework. You agree with me? Well, the first and foremost thing that I actually want to talk about today is basically about sorry, am I not audible?
Ma'am, you are audible. Please go ahead.
All right. Okay. The first and foremost thing that I would want to start by saying that when we are talking about social media, then what perspective are we talking about? Because perspectives differ when we are talking about the social media. So I'll keep the contents, to a specific flavor. The portions of today's contents will be of a specific flavor, so that I will be actually giving all participants more time to ask questions. The contents today will be more about understanding a little about what is this media we are talking about. Then there is something called as the need for the social media in our education. And today we've moved on to the requirement of social media in our lives, well, education is part of life, then there is two different things when we're talking about perspective. One is about education, which, right from primary education times, people have started saying that please use social media, learn from the social media, and that's a good thing. Well, and then up to higher education, it has become a part of our lives, especially when we are pursuing higher education. I will also do a very important component of the need to detox, and we will discuss that in a little more detail. This will be all what I will be covering in today's short webinar. So you will all agree that today the social media has several virtual communities and networks, which has been, our the fastest, quick and easy and the most sought after space to learn from, to also share within, to create, to exchange information, and also all our ideas, and to interact with anyone unknown. You'll agree with me. Okay, let us look at this transition. I'm sure this is something that is interesting, which you can see in the slide. I don't know whether you youngsters who are participants in today's webinar have even done this, seen this, and experienced this. It's the pencil, and I thought that chewing up this one top side is essentially when we think, and most of us believe that thinking new ideas is coming from there. And well, the other side, which is sharpened, is used for writing down those ideas. Right? We've seen that, later when it was not pencils and it was pens, I think people have started chewing up even pens, especially in examination halls, thinking. And then look at, the movement, the shift from the left to the right. You will see that each and every youngster is holding a mobile phone and doing necessary learning, maybe. It's not very right to always be, kind of putting down the youngsters. So what I want to say is that the transition has happened right from this pen and pencil to the mobile. Today, most of it is on apps. You will agree with me. Most of it is happening through the social media. So if we now go on to understanding that, does the social media always support in providing opportunities to unleash potential? So first and foremost, young users of the social media and technology must be aware of the misinformation. Are we aware of this misinformation? How many of us have started, trying to do various things which is not right? First and foremost, have youngsters understood and found out what to scan, how much to filter out when they read? We are not just talking about people using the social media for education, for getting more information on a certain topic or content which is already existing in the textbooks, right? I think it all started from there. Thanks to technology. When technology was not there, it was all about the struggle to get the right books. It was all about the struggle to get the right information. And all information was not spread. Now you can see that, hooked to the net, we are able to see here now on the screen what I was able to put across is one person probably in some rural place. And then there's also this picture of one of the service providers trying to say that, you will get continued unlimited usage of your speed internet for whatever you want. When this is our life today, are we aware of most information that we get? Today, as a psychologist, I must tell you that I have youngsters, I have adults who come to my clinic and they tell me about what is the illness that they have. So they tell me. So earlier it used to be that we just go with symptoms to a physician. We go with symptoms to a psychologist. But today we have people who just talk about the name of the illness. So where did they get this knowledge of the name? Who did the diagnosis? How was this actually got? And this is thanks to the internet. They read about the symptoms, they match their symptoms with what is given there, and then they get into this space where they completely believe and they trust that they have this problem. Well, this is just not about it. When they spend a long time surfing some site to learn, then we must understand that yes, learning is happening, and a lot of knowledge and information is being sought and preserved. But then, what is the first thing that is happening? Will you all agree with me that most of us, most of us, you will have to look and do this, test for yourself. The first thing that we do in the morning when we, wake up is probably check our mobile phones, right? And what do we check for? We check the various sites that we are so used to. We check and we log into those various spaces which we have become very comfortable with. And then also the last thing, just before we go to bed, isn't it just the same thing that we do? Okay. I have one very interesting research which I was just reading about. I'm not wanting to actually highlight the research here today, but what I want to share with you is the conclusions of what was found. It was found that, in the population who are pursuing higher education in the age range of 18 years to 24 years, this is the group where they said that when a survey was done and a question was asked, that when do you actually, use the social media? And almost everybody mentioned that this was only when I have free time. I use social media to relax when I have free time, right? So how do we look at this whole thing? We look at this whole thing this way, that the free time is in bits and pieces here and there during the day. That means I'm doing, to a large part of the day, I'm doing my stuff, my responsibilities. But in bits and pieces, I get this free time and I take this free time and I take this opportunity to connect to people, known and unknown, through the social media. So essentially, if we start calculating the total number of free time that we have used in order to spend on social media, I have found, including myself, most often, see, today there's even an app to do that. It will calculate the amount of hours that we have spent on the social media. It comes up to, solid 3, 4, 5 hours. So then what are we discussing? We're discussing this decreased productivity, right? There's so much that we can do, this one lifetime, right? And especially this pandemic has taught us that, it is best to enjoy our productivity, not best to enjoy our money by going places, globe trotting, which people were doing. It has taught us that staying within our safe homes, there is so much that we can do, so much that we can relate to and actually enjoy good life. I have spent a lot of productive hours actually sharing, trying out to do the same, but sharing the same with various types of audience who have been under high stress because they're not able to do the same things that they were doing in this past years, as well as people who have complaints about feeling lonely just because it's just either the social media or that they don't sometimes even know when to stop the social media. This has become a major problem for so many of us. We don't know when to stop. It has been hours and hours of social media where we are not doing all what we know what is productive. most of us know the difference between the good lifestyle and the incorrect or wrong habits. But knowing is one, but are we doing it is very important. So this is something we have to essentially understand. So it's very important for us to understand that the time drain and the wastage of our time without doing anything productive, because ultimately, apart from just evaluating the total number of hours that we have spent on various platforms in the social media throughout the day, if you find out, did it actually help us? Then we understand that probably the productivity was just very, very little, just not so much to account for and to feel accomplished. So that is something which I wanted to highlight by telling that unleashing potentials is obviously, definitely something that we can really enjoy from this technology, but let us not become just very, very uncomfortable and unproductive people by holding on to the social media, by just sticking on to connecting with people known and unknown without any productive dialogue. So this is what I was trying to bring about by talking about decreased productivity and the time drain or waste. Moving on, if we have to further talk, I'm just moving to the next slide. Just give me a second. I'm just moving to the next slide. Yes. So, sorry, I didn't understand why the slide took so much time to come up. But thanks to the social media. So, well, I can always blame it on technology. I'm not sure why this slide didn't come up at the right time. I had to figure out for a couple of seconds. Okay, so let's discuss this influence on education. And in the beginning, I was just saying that although the webinar was coined using the words higher education, I wanted to bring to your observation that every parent will agree with me that children who are even as young as in the first standard are using a whole lot of technology. Well, I'm not just discussing about the online classes where they have to sit, understand how they have to look into the monitor and have clarity in what they are saying, not scream together, all of that. I'm actually talking about where they're actually being told to look into various sites, get pictures and get various other information, added information. So this is being supportive. We learn better, we learn faster. In fact, you will agree with me that right now it is just at the click of a button, we are able to get much more. We are able to understand much more. But when we're talking about the need of social media in higher education, then as we progress, in our levels of education, we need this in order to become more clear with detail. We need the social media to get into further details. We do more reading, we go into in-depth learning. Probably that time this is more useful when we cannot afford it from books, only when we cannot afford it from books. Otherwise, books have always been the haven for learning. It is the place where everything is so beautifully documented. Everything is so fantastic when we talk about reading a book and understanding a book. But then the social media today is doing so much more when it comes to learning in depth in higher education. But what are we talking about? We are talking about all what we can get in terms of innovative ideas we personally get, right? You will agree with me that when we are reading from other people's exchange of the achievements and what they have done, a lot of youngsters, I'm sure, get better innovative ideas from across the globe. This is something which the social media has supported and helped. You'll agree with me. Well, a click of a button will clarify all our doubts, and that is so important, right? So this is definitely which we have to acknowledge before we move forward. Yeah. As a psychologist, yes, if you ask me, so what have you been, receiving as inputs from participants? Well, I will say that nobody is coming and sitting in front of me and saying, thanks to social media, I'm able to do better. In fact, I'm having more concerned parents. I'm having more concerned youngsters who are trying to say that, what is this addiction? Why have I gotten into this, addictive behavior of going on and on for hours together, surfing something on the internet, when I have found that I'm just not doing my regular routine. So this is definitely a concern that I'm experiencing. I'm hearing from people, and it's when I'm acknowledging the social media, I'm just trying to bring in a balance, because from here I can actually go to the concern that I have been discussing. So this slide is something where the technology is not supporting. Okay, so now moving to the next slide, where I have to actually talk about the need to detox. Why have I actually discussed this? If I have acknowledged the social media and thanked students who have learned so much, appreciated youngsters and appreciated parents who have given this support to the young ones. Yeah, so we have gotten everything just onto a table for you to learn, to connect and interact with the entire world. One important thing that I must tell you, that are we experiencing this, very, very, strange but very significant behavior when we are browsing? Are you finding it difficult to give up browsing or scrolling the social media? If for this question, it is a yes, in the sense that you're constantly, your hand is going to the mobile to just check something. Each time we are browsing, what happens is that our brain's neurotransmitter called dopamine, actually, this is referred to as a pleasure molecule, but it's not true. This dopamine, this is so powerful that essentially this makes us desire things, and here, when it comes to browsing, the dopamine rush can make a person lose all enthusiasm even to eat or drink. Is that a good thing? Forget all the healthy routines of exercising and socializing with family and friends, but own care, personal care and hygiene is sometimes forgotten by so many addicts. This is definitely a concern. This is where I want to bring in this very strong basis of talking about, the algorithms which is changing our needs. The algorithm, essentially, the way this whole app or the site is developed, it is basically developed, or it works on consuming more of our time and more of our conscious attention. It always tries to grab our conscious attention. It most often starts connecting with us on areas that we like. This is how it all starts. So then what happens? Most of our wakeful time, we are constantly connected to those sites. Well, so how would we explain this? You'll agree with me if I say it's like exploiting the vulnerability of our own psyche, right? So what we are basically doing when we connect with the social media, right? Apart from that browsing and learning. You know, at this point in time, I also want to tell you, when I use the word addiction, you can ask me that, well, addiction is a strong word. And that is, in the other extreme of the whole conversation or interaction that we are having when we are talking about the influence of social media. Yes, it is a strong word, and addiction has to be essentially diagnosed. But what I want to tell you is that when we are using this particular, word called addiction, then what is it that we are constantly doing? We get addicted to essentially filtering our lives and projecting it to the outside world, right? So we do different things, and I'm sure all speakers have, been able to say the same in various forums, who have been explaining about what is it that we need to balance in our use of the media. So this filtering that we are doing, when I was checking with a group of my audience in another, group, I got this information that, well, that actually enhances our confidence. We become more confident when we show this filtered self to the world. So why do you object? I'm not harming anyone, right? I'm just showing a more confident self, which I'm not. I have youngsters, young girls and young boys who talk about, well, I actually am, very conscious of the amount of weight I've put on. I used to never be like this, and I'm now very conscious of the amount of weight I've put on. But then the pictures that I would like to project in the social media can be of my choice. Okay, in this, what I want to bring in front of this audience, the number of participants who are listening to this webinar, that today, what is the requirement is, please remember, it is about clarity, which is more important than this confidence. Clarity about where are we and what kind of a life are we leading. An evaluation of the quality of our life is very, very essential. Well, young minds, what I want to tell you is that please remember that when I am discussing the influence of social media, it is with a lot of concern about a whole group of people who are talking about the difficulty that they're having in getting out to do their own stuff. Although they know what is good life, the difficulty in coming back to living this good life. Parents who are having a struggle because of constant frictions at home. And why? Just because children say that, give me my space. So what space are the children discussing? The youngsters discussing? They're talking about the space where they don't mind connecting with even unknown people. Isn't this, some concern? So we are basically talking about the algorithm that essentially starts working in order to keep us hooked, keep us connected, so much so that we should not ignore and completely neglect responsibilities. Our care for ourselves, of course, and next comes the care for others too, with whom we live. We are all living in a beautiful world full of people, right? And most of us even have our love and concern for animals and nature and plants. So much to do with this beautiful world where we live in. I'm sure you will all appreciate if I say that, when this particular media was not there, we had so much of limitations in life in general, right? And today, with this technology advancement, 2020, we are able to do so much that even the pandemic has not bogged us down, thanks to social media. But then, what is it that we have to remember here is our brain is not basically formulated to become a slave. Let us be the master of even this technology, which is man's own invention. You'll agree with me. And once we have this clarity, I'm sure you'll agree that this is much more a requirement to do our stuff, to do our daily stuff, right? To live a good life, than just discussing that confidence that we have been highlighting. So, when we discuss detox, how can we actually do it? So, anytime we have to do a detox, it comes with a lot of rewarding ourselves when we have maintained time. I usually do this with young minds. I help parents working on, can we formulate time where kids can browse, enjoy what they are seeing, viewing, and connecting with, but also feel good about accomplishing and, a green tick to most of what we had planned to do, and are we able to do it? Life's routine is not to make life monotonous. You'll agree with me. Life's routine is basically to feel more accomplished. And isn't that what we are trying to project by filtering our real selves? So why not we make it an accomplished real self? Trust me that all those who are actually trying to do this, who have decided to get into a detox, it is possible and it is happening. It is definitely a wonderful way of, caring for ourselves. We are not discussing about going away from the social media. We are not discussing about, completely disconnecting from the social media. We are discussing about developing a balance. We are discussing about, planning a better life, a better day. In fact, when we discuss a schedule, let's make it more simple. And when it's just about a day, then it's not too much for us to, bargain, right? Just planning it in a better way, planning it in a more productive way. So this is what you have to basically plan and think when we are doing this. I would want you to remember that we need more clarity than the confidence of using the media. So please do try and bring about this important clarity in your own life. Young minds, if the webinar has been viewed by more students, youngsters who are into higher education, I'm sure that for a long time now, I'm sure about 8 months now, that every educational institution is even talking about, can we have your attendance on record? Why don't you come on screen and mark your attendance? All this is happening only because of technology. That every educational institution is still acknowledging your presence. If you young minds, all of us, even adults, if we have to acknowledge our presence in this world today, let's do it with, a better curriculum in our own lives. Let's live our lives, one life. Let's live it the way we plan to be more productive, to be more socially available, apart from being physically active, apart from also indulging into better mental activity so that we don't age, faster than time. Thank you one and all for participating. Like I told you in the beginning, I wanted to just keep it to specific flavors so that I am not going on to making it a very, very long and prolonged talk about the influence of the media, especially when it is lunchtime for most of you to log out and enjoy your food. I would actually appreciate any type of questions now. Thank you. Thank you for participating. And I don't want any one of you to please not miss that lovely picture of the sun and the greenery, right? And trust me, this is just a picture which is definitely available on Earth, yeah, just around us. You need to go out. We need to just drop technology and phone for some time and inhale some fresh air. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Geetha, ma'am. There is a question from the participants. How is social media impacting friendship and relationship among young adults?
Okay, so if you're asking me how is it influencing, and you're asking a psychologist, so I will tell you that all those who come to me are only coming about talking about their negative influence. Well, a lot of friendship today has started on social media. We started making friends with unknown faces, becoming great friends. In fact, you will understand that partners for life is also now happening through the social media. We have various sites which even give us life partners. All this to our advantage, but then if at all it is bringing about misunderstanding in friendship, yes, that's also happening. So I will request all of you, more than understanding how does it influence, I'll request you to understand, please keep your interaction in this media, please keep it healthy. And if we discuss about keeping it healthy, you will find that you are respecting the boundaries of friendship. So I'm sorry if I am, ending it with you asked a question. I'm just supposed to answer you that there is both the negative influence and the positive influence. But this little tip that I wanted to also add is just to tell you that I'm sure we can all enjoy it if we are not making it very complicated, if we are not making it very, troublesome for one another. I hope I have at least answered your question in a little bit. Any other question?
No, ma'am, that's it for the no more questions further. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
In case anyone has any questions, you can please feel free to put it on the chat box. We will wait for another minute to see if there are any more questions towards ma'am. So if you have any questions regarding the session, please feel free to put it on the chat box.
Well, I can see appreciations, no questions.
Yes, madam. So I will continue further. Now I request Aditya sir to give the vote of thanks.
Is it audible? Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this gracious occasion. On behalf of KLS Nijilingappa College and Department of Journalism, I heartily thank Dr. Geetha Appachu for gracing this occasion. Madam, your input through psychological perspective has been really enlightening. Many of us try to see the things in social sphere, but here is something we can understand the idea through sociological or also psychological perspective, and your idea on especially on influence on social media, and especially on the idea of detoxing from social media is brilliant. And also your very idea of finding a balance between in social media, and you have made